knowing more about suspension information. The Minister of Justice has moved forward with the plan to open the center over at St. Pat's High School, but that has places for 12 at-risk kids. And I can tell you that, and I don't have to tell you, I'm sure you know, 12 doesn't really begin to scratch the surface of the number of kids that get suspended from some of our even elementary schools, as well as the junior high schools and high schools. So it seems to me that we need a good picture of suspension rates, and we need a much more comprehensive and inclusive response and plan to deal with young people who are having difficulty maintaining a level of behavior in the classroom that makes it possible for them to learn or for the kids around them to learn. And so I want to ask what progress has been made with respect to developing some uniform standards around gathering suspension information in the boards, and then planning for the use of that information, and particularly getting in place programs to ensure that when kids can't perform in the classroom, they're not out on the sidewalks, creating chaos in the community, which has been the experience as well in my constituency. Thank you.
The Honourable the Minister of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I will try to be more specific with my answers. The whole question of gathering data by school and by board, I spoke to that yesterday, but we have plans for a student information system across the province, a very expensive program, $10 million estimated cost for that program, and would be one of the first provinces in Canada to have that. However, we recognize that collecting data is one thing, but doing something in the classroom is another, and so our priorities have become in the classroom. And as a result of that, the information that's collected is available by school by school and through the board and then to the department. One board has a complete data system that allows them to collect it from all of their schools and record it. We would like all boards to have that, but we can access that data by going to the board and then going down to the school. We have implemented the PEBS program, and I'm sure you're familiar with that, but that is a program that is designed to use alternative means to address inappropriate behaviors. And out-of-school suspensions is probably the last resort. A lot of in-school suspensions are now, what used to be out of school are being accommodated in the schools. And the early results of that information, which does come from those schools directly to us, is that there's about a 50% decrease in the number of referrals to the principal's office. So I think the fact that we're giving the teachers in the classroom tools to deal with inappropriate behavior, but recognizing that there are times when it goes beyond that, that there's a mechanism in place so that those students can still be accommodated in the school. As I said, out-of-school suspension is our last resort. But the data from the PEBS can come directly to the department and is our first step at collecting that provincially.
Thank you. The honourable member from Halifax Needham.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank the Minister. That's good information to have. We know, Mr. Chair, that there's a new high school being built here. Citadel High will be opening soon, and I think everybody is looking forward to that. This new high school has 2 gymnasiums, as far as I know, and I understand that HRM are interested in negotiating a service exchange with the province, so that they will have some guaranteed access to the recreational opportunities in those gymnasiums. Now, people in my constituency have expressed concern to me about this. The concern comes from both sides of the coin. The concern comes from parents and students that feel that the opportunities for the students may be impinged on by requirements from the recreational department of HRM on time that would be, normally their time in the gymnasiums. And on the other side, from the community perspective, people have expressed concern to me that there's no way that they will be able to get adequate access to recreational opportunities in these gyms if they have to compete with the kids and their intramural sports activities and their athletic programs. So you have both sides not being entirely happy, but I would say that neither side has the information. There has been no discussion about what the service exchange entails, and so I want to ask the minister, what are the parameters of the service exchange? What are the demands that are being placed on the school gymnasiums by the recreational departments? I know that recently there was a report just a few weeks ago came out about Bloomfield Centre, for example, that has a large gymnasium and is a gymnasium that's used by the police department when they're recruiting new recruits, and they do the physical part of their testing. And that gymnasium is used quite often for this. And in that particular report, it talked about, well, that testing will now be done at Citadel High under part of the service exchange. And, I know for a fact that testing occurs during the day. It's not a nighttime thing. It happens during the day. It happens on weekends. It will tie up the gym at Bloomfield Centre for a couple of days at a time over a certain period. And that's one example. And then I also know that in that same gymnasium at Bloomfield, there are groups like the Indo-Canadian Association, and they're a group of mature, retired men who play badminton, and their families come, and they've been doing that for years. Every Friday evening, they have the gymnasium there, and they're fairly doubtful that they're going to be able to, every Friday night, get a gymnasium in the new school to be able to continue their physical activities. So if you could provide me with some information that I could be circulating in the community so that people would have a better appreciation of what the plan is, I would very much appreciate that.
Thank you. The Honourable the Minister of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's true that the new school will be a great asset to downtown Halifax, and I expect that it will be used 24/7. In order to make sure that all of the parties who have an expectation of using that school can be part of the use agreement, we do establish community use agreements between the municipality and the board. And we have a number of those across the province, and it brings all the interested and appropriate parties to the table, and then they work out their user agreement so that those community groups do have access and scheduling so that they can be accommodated. But the priority in all of those user agreements is students. And once student needs for after-school use of whatever part of that building have been accommodated, then there would be hours set aside that would be available for the community, and there would be parts of the building that would be available for the community. So you could well have several community groups there as well as a group of students, but it's clearly defined what times and what spaces are available. And that agreement has not yet been completed. I can't tell you what stage it is in development, but when that is developed, all the parties are at the table, all of those who have the interest in using that, and of course representatives from the HRM, from the council, would be there representing the interests of the communities who might want to use that. As I said, we have some very successful ones. We have some, as your fellow member 2 seats down would know, in Hants East, and so it's not uncommon to have a lot of community groups in our schools.
Thank you. The honourable member for Halifax Needham.
Thank you very much. Well, I will continue to look into this on behalf of people in my constituency. I'd like to move now to out of our school system into a different part of the minister's department. And the department is responsible for skills development in the province and for transitional programs as well when industries are closing down. And sadly, Mr. Chair, we've seen a fair amount of that in Nova Scotia in the last little while. I want to start with something that was brought to my attention by my colleague, actually from Cape Breton Centre. Apparently in the federal budget that recently passed, there is provisions and there is an intention to devolve training to the provinces. The province of Nova, this is something that has happened in many other provinces quite a considerable period of time ago. And I think that under the former Liberal government, provinces were given the option to take over responsibility for training. And we didn't do that, I don't think, in Nova Scotia. I think we entered into some kind of an agreement that allowed the province of Nova Scotia to do certain things, but for example, the career centres throughout the province are all primarily funded through direct federal funding to those organizations. For example, I have one in my constituency, the Halifax Career Centre on Goddichan Street. So I've been told by my colleague from Cape Breton Centre that there was this item in the federal budget that is now looking at the 4 provinces that did not take responsibility for training, and Nova Scotia is one of those. So I want to know, has there been contact with our federal counterparts, and what planning is your department embarking on as it appears that the federal government are about to devolve responsibility to this province for training services?
Thank you. The Honourable the Minister of Education.
Mr. Chair, to the member opposite, I'm not aware of any discussions with the federal government to participate in what we see as an important part for our province as far as training is concerned. Certainly would welcome any opportunity to discuss with them, and obviously would welcome any dollars they might want to give to support it. In the meantime, however, our Skills and Training Division at the provincial level is very active, and I think it's been, I've spoken to that many times, that the work that they're doing is to try to address the needs of a population there that will be our workforce in the future, and any assistance that we could get from the federal government to help support that would be great. It is the area that is growing most quickly within the education sector that I look after, and it's one where we have put a fair amount of investment to make sure that we have programs available and reaching out not only to the students in our schools, but to those who are moving on into community colleges. But I would share with you any information I get from the federals.
Thank you. The honourable member has approximately 4 minutes left. The honourable member from Halifax Needham.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And perhaps it's too early to really know what the intention is of the federal government then with respect to devolution of training responsibilities. I know that the Harper government have a predisposition, shall we say, to decentralization. So it will be interesting to see exactly what their intent is. I want to use the last 4 minutes of my time with respect to the transitional program in the department for workers who are in the unfortunate situation where they find that jobs that they have been doing disappear. And the minister and I have talked about Maple Leaf, the workers at Maple Leaf, but sadly we now have the workers at Trenton Works potentially in a similar situation. And I think while it's probably too early it's too early in the Trenton Works situation to decide that that facility will be dormant. Nevertheless, for some people, I think they might take some comfort in knowing what is available through government to help people transition, retrain, upgrade their educational skills. And so if the minister could lay out as clearly as possible so that this can be given to members of that workforce, what it is that how her department will assume a leadership role in a transitional process, I think that would be most helpful.
Thank you. The Honourable the Minister of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to the member opposite. We have discussed the Maple Leaf situation, and we're very proud of the success we're having there in that we're getting a lot of reaction and response from the workers there, taking advantage of the services we're providing. And we are taking that same model to Trenton. In fact, as we speak, folks from my Skills and Training Division are on site in Trenton to help the administration at the plant and then down to the workers, help them understand what services we have to offer. And as I said, our model that we used in Maple Leaf is one we'll transfer there. That includes an on-site office initially to get a database of the workers there who want their name entered in the database, to let them know what services we can provide. We will take them through assessments if they wish to have assessments to determine what their needs might be to transition. But we are there now as we speak.
Thank you. The honourable member from Halifax Needham.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I think the last thing I would say to the minister is I don't know if the department has any plans, any active role to play. I would hope that it would be the case that it would be possible to offer more programs to people who are in the workforce before a crisis happens in their industries. I think that on-site workplace literacy, numeracy, upgrading is a really important thing to have in many, many workplaces, given the insecurity that exists now for many people at work. The kinds of international pressures that have been placed on industries as a result of the ability of companies to pull up stakes and move at will means that many of our workplaces are vulnerable and many of our workers are vulnerable. And while I appreciate that the department has programs to bring to industries like Maple Leaf or like Trenton Works, in the event of a plant closure, it seems to me it would be a really important and prudent thing to be thinking about what kinds of ongoing work that we do in workplaces around our province, and particularly workplaces that have the potential to be the most impacted by this kind of global competitiveness. And I think we could probably write a few names on a flip chart of other industries that their future can be quite precarious. And you know, workers are often hired 10, 15 years into a workplace with very little opportunity for upgrading. And I know that there are many European countries that have a very active kind of training and ongoing educational and training roles that they play. And I would hope that we would be able to move in that direction.
Thank you. I don't know if the Minister wants to respond. The Honourable Minister of Education.
I will just respond very quickly, not taking time from other members, but you know, we recognize that professional development on site within the workforce and within the companies is something that a lot of large companies do, and we would encourage that here. And of course, we have a framework that we established in 2002, which looks at retraining, and so we're prepared to take our staff and help companies develop appropriate programming that they can deliver. So we will continue to work with them.
Thank you. The honourable member's time has expired. Chair will now recognize the honourable member for Glace Bay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'll indicate at the beginning of my brief questioning that I will be sharing my time with the member for Preston. Madam Minister, I wanted to bring to your attention, I know you've been hearing a lot lately about the need of a junior high school in Glace Bay, and I wanted to bring to your attention before I ask you some further questions concerning the new junior high school. At the I'm not sure if you're aware of this or not. You may or may not be, but there was over the weekend, as I understand, a major water pipe, a hot water pipe at St. Michael's Junior High in Glace Bay burst open, and there was some water damage and some steam damage, I understand, to a major portion of the administration office and area of St. Michael's Junior High. And why I'm telling you that is because I think it illustrates that it was definitely because it's connected to the furnace, and it definitely illustrates and points out that the age of those facilities, both St. Michael's and Morrison Junior High in Glace Bay, are at the stage right now where they are fast becoming non-maintainable, if there is such a word, okay, in the vocabulary. But I think it further makes my point that it's time that we did something with the situation regarding the junior high school in Glace Bay. And I know that the department has had discussions with the school board of late, and I would appreciate it if you could update me at this time as to what has taken place and what is the current situation regarding the status of Glace Bay Junior High.
Thank you.
I
should
change that to the status of the new school proposed for Glace Bay, the junior high school.
Thank you. The Honourable Minister of Education has the floor. Order, please. Order.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to the member opposite. You know, when we build new schools, we have a school naming process, and that usually includes students who get very keen and very interested in naming a new school, and who knows what they will come up with for the new Glace Bay Junior High. On a more serious note, the comment about a break in the pipe and water damage, I was not aware of that. But I certainly understand that we do have aging infrastructure, and that's one of the reasons why schools get put on a list for renovation and or addition or new schools. And so it's not, I guess it's not surprising, it's disappointing, but not surprising that that may have happened or did happen. To be specific to the member's question, We have had ongoing discussion about the Glace Bay Junior High and about the new Glace Bay Junior High, where we are with our capital and where we are with our renovations additions in this particular budget. And one of the mechanism, not one of, but the mechanism that we use at the department to determine what schools will be considered for renovation and or addition or new construction is to have information come from the school boards to the department through the Capital Construction Committee. And then the Capital Construction Committee will make a recommendation. And as we know, in 2003, that committee recommended that there would be a replacement school for Glace Bay Junior High. And we have continued to keep that on the list, and as I've said several times over the last 2 weeks, those 12 new schools and those 45 renovations additions projects are on the list. They have not been changed. The scope of the work has not been changed. The commitment of the province has not been changed. Some of them have been delayed. We've also had discussions specifically about Glace Bay and about the struggle to find a site that is a safe site. We believe that we are closer now than we were perhaps when I visited Glace Bay as to where that safe site will be. What we have done with our budget for this year in the proposed budget is we've gone back to the Cape Breton School Board to say these are the dollars that we have in our budget for 07-08, and we have are asking you to consider two important projects in your board and give us direction as to how you want those to proceed. And that board has come back to us in the form of a letter this week to say they would like to see the new construction at Northside and at Glace Bay proceed together. And we have responded to say we will respect that request, and we will move both of those projects forward in 2007-2008. Our specific plans to do that are to finalize the sites for both of those schools and to begin the process of design, to complete that design during 2007-2008. So in the spring of 2008, we can begin construction on both of those schools.
Thank you. The honourable member for Glace Bay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure if I should ask any more questions past this point or if I should just sit down and walk away. But just one, if I could, to clarify. The original, and the minister is quite correct, the original announcement was in 2003, with the original construction date was to be completed by 2000, or start was 2006, and then it was changed and delayed to a construction start of 2007, with a completion by the end of the year 2009. So if what the minister is telling me is that completion date stays the same. By the end of 2009, there will be a new junior high school in Glace Bay. That within the school year 2007 and 8, there will be a site selected, there will be design work done, and then tenders will be called in 2008 with a construction completion sometime in 2009. Am I correct?
Thank you. The Honourable the Minister of Education.
Mr. Chair, to the member opposite, I will repeat, and he is correct. We are looking at finalizing site and completing design work in 2007-2008. Coming spring of 2008, the tenders will be called for construction. The construction period is usually 12 months, depending on the size of the school, but construction 10 to 12 months, and once that construction is completed, the school would open. So his timeline is correct.
Thank you. The Honourable the member for Glace Bay.
And just one final question. There is an agreement in principle with the Cape Breton Victoria District School Board that both the new junior high school for Glace Bay and the Northside Elementary School will be built during that same time period. An agreement in principle now exists with the District School Board. Is that correct?
Thank you. The Honourable the Minister of Education.
Mr. Chairman, to the member opposite, the response that went back in writing to the school board's request was that yes, we would move both of those forward together.
The honourable member for Glace Bay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm extremely pleased to hear the minister's remarks, and I'm sure that she knows very well that that the students and the people of Glace Bay are anxiously awaiting, further word on that school, and we'll be pleased to hear that it's proceeding as it was during the last schedule. There's also small concern that I bring to your attention now, and that would be during the design work. That as far as I know, from talking to some members previously who belonged to a committee that was looking at some of the design for the school, but there was a concern regarding the size of the gymnasium that was to be part of the new school. And I would ask the minister and her staff to pay attention to that. And this certainly that I guess what I'm trying to get around to saying is that very thankful that there is going to be a new junior high school in Glace Bay, but we want the Cadillac version, okay? I guess is the only easy way to say it, and I understand the constraints that the minister and the government are under, but with those two schools and the condition that they are right now, it's of paramount importance that this move ahead, and it's also of paramount importance that the school that's built there is no less than what would be built anywhere else in the province. And in this day and age, when of course the minister and her government are coming forward with initiatives to take care of things such as child obesity and so on and so forth, it is of extreme importance that gymnasiums be of the proper size. The gymnasium in this case would be used by the community, would be big enough to be used by the community for sporting events and so on, and that sort of initiative is part of that school's design. I would just bring that to the minister's attention, and she doesn't have to comment on that, but I would at this time just like to say I thank her for her attention to this file and her attention to this matter, and I know that she and her staff have been working diligently over the past week or so to try and find a resolution to this problem, and hopefully we have. And I will pass on the remainder of my time to the member for Preston.
Thank you. The Honourable the Minister of Education.
If I could just take 1 minute of time, I would like to acknowledge the efforts from the member opposite. We did work well together on this. His message was very clear. I heard it several times and went back to the board, and I'm pleased that we're able to move forward in the best interest of the students in both of those schools.
Thank you. The Chair will now recognize the honourable member for Preston.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a few questions here for the Minister. There's one thing I want to draw the Minister's attention to that you probably may not be aware of. And Graham Creighton Junior High School was built a few years ago, rebuilt a few years ago after it had some serious difficulties, and it's a beautiful building, and we appreciate that was done. And at the time, the regional municipality put $400,000 in the building to expand the gym and put a seniors room in, that the community could use the facility and have a place to have some functions and do some other things. Now, what's happened, as always happens in the school board has taken control of the school, as it should do, and the seniors room was built, which is completely accessible, clear of the school, so it doesn't interfere with the students, not that seniors would, in Cherrybrook. And Cherrybrook does not have a community center of any kind. There's no place large enough to have a function. There's nowhere that they can go and get together as a community to do things in the community. Now, Cherrybrook is one of the very oldest communities in Nova Scotia. It was predominantly black community. Now it's changing, and it's the one community that really has embraced change, and it's a wonderful community, as all my communities are. But it's caused a great deal of difficulty. We've got some seniors that have contributed a tremendous amount to the community and to the province, and they try to get their seniors room to have a function, which is too small to have a function, a real function, but at least they can get together and play some cards and do some things that seniors would normally enjoy together and the company of each other. Most of these people have grown up with each other right from children and still enjoy each other's company. The problem is they don't have access to the school. And the regional municipality, at the time I was on council, I can remember the councillor for the area at that time, pushed council to put $400,000 into this to upgrade the school, a better gym, and this particular facility, sole purpose that the community could have access to the gym, and under certain conditions, of course. They're not going to destroy it, and not when the children are using it during regular school. And it's become so prohibitive, the school cannot use it. I mean, the seniors in the community cannot use it. And this community has no community center, and that's why that extra money was put there. I was just wondering what the minister could do to rectify this situation, to see if we can't have this corrected for the community.
Thank you. The Honourable Minister of Education.
Mr. Chairman, to the member opposite, I'm a bit familiar with the concern. I'm not familiar with the details of the community use agreement, but when communities do enhance our buildings and that opportunity is there during design, and it sounds to me like the community came forward, the municipality came forward, gave dollars to enhance that, to create space with that specific purpose. And when the community use agreement is signed off by those partners, the details of how and when and the conditions for the use should be outlined in the user agreement. As I mentioned earlier, when we have community use agreements, the priority, of course, is students, and I understand that that's no different in your community. Students come first. But if there's an issue with the user agreement, which should be specific to who can be in what part of the school when, then we'll sit down and have a look at that specific agreement and see where it may need to be modified. The partners who signed it would have to come back together to determine, what are the needs now, and can those needs be addressed through revisions to that agreement. I would be prepared to look into that and in consultation and obviously cooperation with the member opposite.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Preston.
Thank you very much. I talked to the seniors about this a couple of times, and it doesn't, the information they give me doesn't seem to make sense to me, but these are very capable people I'm dealing with here. These are very capable people. And they indicate that the Department of Community Service or somebody has to book the seniors room. And it just doesn't seem to make sense because it's in a school, and it seems too convoluted to me. So if we could work with the minister and her department to get this resolved, and as I say, these are the kind of people that go into this particular room that they use, and there's a cloakroom off it, and there's washrooms, totally isolated from the school, so it has no impact whatsoever in the school, this particular piece of the facility. And I'm going to talk about the gym after that, but there's no access problem. And it's not even an issue the school's got to clean the place, because when the seniors are done, I've seen it firsthand. When they leave, and they may not have been the people that used the place last, and they don't want restricted uses of it. They're not telling other people not to use it. That's not the issue here. They leave it cleaner than when they come in. So, and they've bought equipment for it, and they've done things, and they will do more. But if they don't have access, maybe on a Monday afternoon, they want to go play some cards or socialize some way, it's very difficult. So with a commitment from the minister, and I'd like you to sort of recommit that again to be sure here, because this has been a long, ongoing problem that doesn't need to exist. I would be glad to sit down with the minister and her staff, or anyone you might suggest, to get this resolved.
Thank you. The Honourable, the Minister of Education.
Mr. Chair, and I will restate my commitment. We recognize the importance of community use of our schools and want to make sure that they serve a population, the full range of population in the community. And I don't know the particulars. I'm hearing them now, but I certainly will reaffirm my commitment to sit down with you and with members in the community, or with the staff at the school or the school board, to find out exactly what the details are, what the issue is, and look for resolution.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Preston.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Minister. I'm getting all messed up here again with who I'm talking about too. But the community will be very pleased about that. And if you get an opportunity to meet with some of the people, you'll see what I'm talking about. There's only one way to describe the people that are connected with this. They're simply wonderful people that you'll be delighted that you've met, and you'll never forget them. It's just that That simple. The other issue is with the gymnasium, because the gymnasium was going to be one of these mini gymnasiums, as my colleague here has indicated that he would like to not see in Glace Bay. And the municipality did put this extra money in to build the seniors' room and a bigger gymnasium. And lo and behold, seldom can the community get this gymnasium. Now, it's a beautiful gymnasium. It's built the way it should be built. It's got a nice stage, it's got a nice floor on it, and it's built properly. How can we go about, under the right circumstances, and I stress under the right circumstances, because we want to make sure the building stays as pristine as it is and is wonderfully looked after. Can the community get, the community of Cherrybrook in particular, where they have no facilities? There is none. So they can have a function there that they can maybe raise money for their church or whatever the other function may be that will help the community at a reasonable cost.
Thank you. The Honourable Minister of Education.
The problem is on the school first.
Mr. Chairman, I will repeat again something that I said earlier, in that when the schools are designed for students, the province builds a school for the students. That's a priority. Communities often enhance the building, and that leads to a community use agreement. However, when programs that students are participating in are consuming, and it sounds to me like they are, consuming a lot of the time when others might want to use that, I think we have to recognize that students are a priority. Having said that, community groups generally have a good working relationship with the administration at the school, and sometimes they're able to look at schedules and coordinate the schedules so that those important things in the community can take place in their school. Again, not having the details of the schedule and how often the building might not be used by students, I wouldn't be able to comment on who should be there at what particular time. But students do come first. If this is the only facility in the community, then I would expect that it is highly utilized. And I don't know the population of the school, but I understand it's a very active school, and we encourage that. But as to how times could be made available after students are not using it should be not a problem because of the community use. But if it's during student time, instructional time, after-school intramurals, or weekend competitions with students there, they are the priority.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Preston.
I'd say the minister's going to be in for a real treat if she gets to meet our community. Well, I can tell you that if there was a student function going to happen and somebody misscheduled, this is what would happen in the community. If the community had the gymnasium booked, and there was an event that the students were going to have that they, at the time when the booking was done, the school didn't realize, the community would come forward and say the school has the gymnasium first. This is a community that cares deeply about their children. They care deeply about education, and at no time will they interfere with anything that would help the health of children, whether it be in the necessary education part of it or extracurricular activities. And they would probably be there, and I know they'd be there for extracurricular activities and volunteering to help. So that's what we're talking about. What I'm talking about, just to make it very clear, is that after the students are done with the facility, when the students aren't going to use for extracurricular activities, that's what I'm talking about. It may be a Sunday afternoon that the church, after church, they may want to put a luncheon on or do something like that to raise money for the church. It may be some kind of special function they want to have with their church, or somebody in the community may be having a special birthday or something like that. Something that would help the community. And I can tell you, I go to more birthdays, which I'm very pleased to do, and I enjoy very, very much, in the 3 communities of Cherrybrook, Lake Loon, 4 communities, Cherrybrook, Lake Loon, East Preston, and North Preston, and probably all my members here put together. And I'm very pleased about that, because it's nice to be invited and celebrate people's birthdays and anniversaries, and that's what the community does. They really rejoice with the accomplishments of people from their community, and it's important they're recognized. And that's part of what I'm talking about here. This school, until such a time, unless the government's got the money to help us build a community center, which we'd love to have, and we're not talking a big one, until that is resolved, we really need to have the use of the school. Again, I stress when it's not necessary, or even an extracurricular activity for any of the students in the school.
Thank you. The Honourable Minister of Education.
Mr. Chair, again to the member opposite, I'm learning more and more about the community and more about the school. And I certainly am pleased to hear that that community, and it comes as no surprise, does put students first. And that's exactly the way it should be. However, when we're looking at, as the member is saying, use after students are not there, again, that is, there are probably, I would suspect there are reasons why. I don't know what the reasons are. I can only speculate. But one of the reasons, as in my past experience as an administrator, is that if the school is to be opened and there's a need for custodial staff, somebody to open the school, somebody to provide security and custodial services and so on, that we start dealing with unions. And, you know, a lot of community groups are quite happy to say, you know, we're trustworthy, give us the key, we'll open the door, we'll go in, we'll clean up after. And that gets into a union issue where union employees, somebody's doing union employee work. So whether that's an issue or not, I don't know. But as I said, I'm hoping that when I visit your community and when I get to meet the seniors and see the school and look at the user agreement, we may be able to determine what's causing that and what the solution might be to that as well.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Preston.
Thank you very much, and I'll take that as a commitment to come visit my community and meet with the people after you've had time to do the proper research. I appreciate that very much. I'm going to talk about a couple of extra things. You passed a bill one of the last sessions here to qualify tradespeople in different communities that have been working perhaps at their different trades for many, many years and have never received the highly coveted certificate for doing the work from the community college and indeed from the Department of Labor, their certifications so they can work as a qualified tradesperson. I'd just like to know where that process is at, because I've had several inquiries in my writing, from all areas of my writing actually about this. I have some people that have been working as sort of in auto mechanic facilities as auto mechanics and don't have a license. They have to work under someone else, so they're making very low income when they could be making a really good income. I have stonemasons and carpenters and many other people that would qualify for this program. And I just wonder where it's at the moment.
Thank you. The Honourable Minister of Education.
Mr. Chairman, member opposite, we did have before the House the amendments to the Trades and Apprenticeship Act, and that amendment of which the member speaks was to provide an opportunity for those people who are working in the trades in our province to become certified. And rather than go for the complete certification, there were a number of things that might deter people from doing that. It could have been a language barrier. It could have been just a fear of an assessment. So we did pass legislation which would look at a certificate of proficiency, so that those people who had been in the trades and who had been practicing their trade very successfully for a number of years, but had not received that certificate, that seal, could go for a certificate of proficiency. And I was very pleased that we were able to put that through the House and had support from our members opposite for that, because it does provide an opportunity for those people who have for years been very successful and very capable. And that's managed through the Skills and Training Division of our department. and any requests for the opportunity to go through that proficiency certification would come through to that department. We certainly can provide information, and I believe our department has provided information out to the tradespeople to let them know that that opportunity is there. But to go directly to the member's question, if there are any people coming to the member or to any other members asking what they should do, they should contact the Skills and Training Division at the Department of Education and ask for the next steps so that they could do the hands-on proficiency assessment to get that certification.
Thank you. Would the honourable member from Preston yield the floor for an introduction? Thank you. The chair now recognizes the Honourable the Minister of Tourism, Culture and Heritage on an introduction.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It's a great pleasure today to welcome students on behalf of myself and also my colleague from Hammonds Plains, who has many students at Charles P. Allen in Bedford, to 38 students, Fulton Rhymes and his students from Charles P. Allen. I've had a long association with Charles P. Allen. Attend their riot days. Riot days are their political days, political speak days at Charles P. Allen. They've been very involved in that, and a wonderful school, wonderful teachers, and it's very appropriate that they're here today, Mr. Speaker, on the day that the estimates are taking place for the Minister of Education. So on behalf of all of us in the chamber here today, I would like to welcome all of the students, Fulton and all of the staff to the House, and hope that you have a wonderful tour and great experience here in the House, and we'll see you back very soon. So thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I'd ask them all to stand and receive warm welcome from the House here.
Thank you. The honourable member for Preston.
It's a pleasure to see young people in the audience here, and the honourable member has done a great job introducing them. Probably someday they'll be taking your place here, at least one or more of them, which would be a great thing to see. In the distance, in the future, I have a, so the trading, this program is now set up so someone can come forward and go through the process. Have you had anyone go through the process yet successfully?
Thank you. The Honourable the Minister of Education.
Mr. Chair, to the member opposite, if he would please give me one moment before I answer the question. I would also like to welcome the students who are here from Charles P. Allen, students and teachers. Welcome to the House. This is a good learning experience for you, how the House operates. And I'm sure that your teacher has explained to you, and if they haven't, they will, the process that we are now in, which is budget process and estimates, which are part of each department. And at this point, I am in the midst of estimates. I'm glad you're here to join in and watch the proceedings. So welcome again. To get back to your question, member opposite has asked the question about how many people may have taken advantage of the Certificate of Proficiency. I'm not aware that any of our tradespeople have taken advantage of that. I did check with our director about a month ago to see what the uptake on that had been, and at that point there had been nobody requested the opportunity to do the proficiency examination. That tells me a couple of things. I guess one of the things it tells me is that perhaps we need to do a better job of communicating so that they do know the opportunity is there and they do know how to access that. The second thing it tells me is that when we were doing the changes, the amendments, we talked about, you know, what kind of a population out there would we be targeting? And we did not anticipate at that point that it was a large audience, but even though it wasn't a large audience, we wanted to make sure that they had that opportunity. So there's either a small audience or we need to communicate better, but from our part, we'll do the communication.
Thank you. The honourable member for Preston.
I think the problem is going to be, from what I've seen in my own area, I've been approached by different people in my area from actually all parts of my constituency, which is interesting. that are quite interested in this process but didn't know where to start, and I didn't want to set them off on the road until I knew this thing was up and going, because I don't think they can, some of the people I've dealt with are pretty shy, and I just don't want to put them into something if it's not ready yet. Because then if it wasn't ready, then I would approach them again and say, now it is ready. They would say, go get lost, basically, and rightfully so. So now that it is in place, I will make sure that we start feeding some people through to your department, and be watching closely to see how that works out. Hopefully it'll be a pleasant operation for everybody, and I'm sure it will be, because we get some pretty highly skilled people that are, just for one reason or another, couldn't finish high school. They had to go to work when they were young, but they've gone into things and found their ways into businesses that they truly enjoy and really excel at, but can't make the money because they don't have a certificate. So I'm pleased to hear that, and perhaps just a simple yes on this would be appropriate, or no. I'm sure a yes will be appropriate. Perhaps if we could make arrangements, you could make arrangements for your director of the department to maybe give me a call, so we could set up maybe an individual to start off. Maybe we can do a test case and just see how this works.
Thank you. The Honourable the Minister of Education.
Through the chair to the member opposite, yes, I'm able to say yes to that. Our director, Stu Gorley, will be contacted before day's end, and we'll work with him to try to make a connection there, so that first step is an easy one for those people who want to take it.
The Honourable Member for Preston.
I anticipate that would be your answer, so that's why I suggested the yes. And I appreciate that. One issue that you may not be aware of, and I think that your director should be made aware of, some of the people I've been dealing with have worked for some places for a long time, and they're treated very well by their employer, but they don't get paid much, and they're afraid if they openly come out and look at this, that they will lose their jobs. So I don't think that's the case, but they have that fear, and I want to make sure that that fear is not reality, and indeed when they start this process that indeed they'll be able to go through the process in times of the day that they're not working, and other things, because this could be one of the reasons that people haven't come forward, because it is a real issue. I mean, if you're just living from day to day and you need that job, you need every hour that day you can get, you don't want to take a chance on missing time from work that your employer may say, well, I've got someone else out here that'll take your job. And that could happen. I don't think it would happen in these cases, but it's a real fear for people, and I want to make sure that the department understands that, and I think that's quite an important part of this process. How much time do I have, Mr. Chair?
You have until 12:20.
12:20? Thank you. So I've got another question here, and this is a question I've asked before. I've got the answer. I'm not pleased with the answer, but I want to hear the answer again. Teachers tell me that in the Halifax Regional School Board, that if someone shows up for school between grade 7 and grade 12, just shows up, don't do anything, that they get them grade 12 certificate at the end of grade 12 and fail in 1 year. Is that true?
The Honourable the Minister of Education.
Mr. Chair, to the member opposite, I think I need a little elaboration on that question. My interpretation of what you said is that being in school from grade 7 to 12 with no academic success at the end of each grade level, and there is a certificate at the end of grade 12. Am I interpreting that question correct? Well, my answer to that would be we certainly have standards at each grade level, and there is an expectation that students meet those standards, and performance by the individual based on their ability to perform is what would guarantee them a certificate at the end of grade 12. We recognize that there's a wide range of abilities coming into our schools, and individual programs are prepared in consultation with parents, teachers, and sometimes a student at a high school level as to what the appropriate programming would be, what the outcomes of that program would be, And when students have passed through their grades on an individualized program, there is a certificate at the end of that program, but it does acknowledge that it was with the support of an individualized program.
The honourable member for Preston.
And that's pretty well the answer I expected. I can remember sitting in with the principal in one of the junior high schools that a student goes to from my area, and the parent desperately pleading with the principal, and the psychologist was brought in by the school board to not move her son forward because he couldn't read or write in grade 9. He was going into grade 12. And there were some behavioral problems that didn't help the situation any. Very bright young man, just needed the right kind of help, and the help was never there in the school that he needed, and the parents just simply could not afford tutors or anything else. And to the best pleas of the mother, that started in grade 6, he was put into grade 7, grade 8, grade 9, pushed into grade 10. Again, going to school some weeks 2 hours a week, if that. And this is really happening. And I know that the answer is students are graduated at the ability that they show. And they still come out with a grade 12 certificate at the end. And the concern I have with the whole thing is, and as a former employer, seeing people come out of high school, first thing we would start to do after a while was get them to write a little note for us, see if they could actually write, get them to read a document, see if they could actually read. And unfortunately, a lot of people couldn't do the simple things, even though they had a grade 12 certificate that might have put them in the middle area of grade 12. This is a real problem. I don't know how you fix it. I think a lot of it's come from mainstreaming, parents wanting to mainstream their students into the system rather than giving them the help that they should really need. And when you see a parent that really wants their son or their daughter to graduate with an education that they can get a job and a reasonable job, it's very disappointing for them. So I'd just like to hear the minister's views on that.
The Honourable, the Minister of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to the member opposite. We don't like to hear stories like that. We recognize that there are a number of factors that contribute to a student's success as they're moving through school. One of the things that we make sure that we put a lot of our resources into is to early detection if there is some kind of disengagement by the student, what's causing that student to not be engaged in what's going on in the classroom. And it can be for a variety of reasons, not always all related to ability. However, for some reason, the student is not actively participating in the programs that are being delivered. One of the things that we have introduced in our schools is the O2 program, the options and opportunities. And we know that there's a population out there that hasn't been well served in the past. Those students who have an inclination towards hands-on kinds of employment and training, and have not and should not be university bound. And so we're trying to capture that audience with our Options and Opportunities program. Now, Options and Opportunities is just as it says. It provides an opportunity for students to get some experience, and so they can make decisions at the end of grade 12 based on information, that it is an informed decision. And they may determine at the end of grade 12 that, yes, they are going on to university, and that's where they should be. And that's wonderful. But they also may decide at the end of grade 12 that they've had an opportunity to do some hands-on kinds of experiences, and they may want to pursue that further. And the very positive part of O2 is that if that is their decision, then they transition into community college. So it's a seamless transition from grade 12 through to community college, and even after community college, they may want to go on to university. But the rationale for putting the O2 in there is to provide students with experiences while they're in grade 10, 11, and 12, hands-on experiences, and still graduate with the regular grade 12 graduation certificate, but have had those experiences which help them. I don't know the specifics of the case you speak of, but perhaps an opportunity like that may have caused that student to be more engaged, more interested, and would have continued on into some meaningful kind of employment. Going to school for that person may have taken on new meaning, and that's what we want to try to capture and hold all of the students that we can. You suggested, or you indicated, that that student perhaps by grade 9 had a very low reading level. And one of the other areas that we put a lot of emphasis on in our schools is on assessment. And we start that at grade 3. I mean, teachers do ongoing assessment as soon as the students are in their classroom, but we do formal assessments in literacy and math at grade 3. And that's, the purpose there is to catch those students who are falling behind, because if you're behind in your reading and literacy skills at grade 3, then we want to get early intervention and provide supports for that student so the gap can be closed. If that gap is not closed, getting to grade 9 creates a whole lot of problems, because not only do you have to close the gap, but that student is obviously feeling very unsuccessful and very turned off with school. So our assessments early on in elementary are designed to identify those students, and then we put the resources in to help them. So, you know, that student, again, it's a specific situation, but maybe some of those opportunities that weren't there, that are there now, weren't there when that student was going through, and we don't want any more of those students going through.
The honourable member for Preston.
Indeed, the opportunities weren't there because the parent tried as early as grade 1 and grade 2 to get the young gentleman evaluated, and it was after grade 6 before it ever happened, which was way too late. So hopefully that situation has been corrected. I'm not that confident in the Halifax Regional School Board that they've actually done that. I'll believe it when I see it. Situation with me, I've seen so much of this go on in the areas that I represent that it really needs to change, and it needs to change quickly for the sake of the children and for our society and our community, because we don't have well-educated young people coming out there. They can't do the technically advanced jobs that are so prevalent today and make the kind of income that they need to make to look after their families. I'm going to talk, I'm not going to take too much more of the minister's time. I'm going to turn to my colleague. But we had in public accounts here a while ago the president of the community college, whom I respect greatly. I think whoever selected that lady to do the job of the president of the community college did the very right thing. She's very qualified, very knowledgeable, and very passionate about what she's done. Now, her and I had a discussion about a topic I'm going to talk about now that we disagreed on, and I appreciate the disagreement. But I'm going to shed some more light on that. I have an industrial background. I was in manufacturing, and very advanced manufacturing actually, set some of the standards in the province that other companies have since followed. And I was getting students out of the community colleges at that time that simply weren't trained well enough to operate the equipment that we had there, and they supposedly had been trained to that level. And I didn't blame the students, because the students, when we got them and worked with them for usually several months or more than a year, they could do minimum level of work. Now, that was very expensive for us. It meant that when I say expense, not just the expense of training someone and the cost of that, but the parts we were making were very expensive. So if they scrapped a piece, they may cost me, in 1 minute cost me $4,000 or $5,000. And then we had to start all over again. So it was a difficult thing. Now, luckily, we get very good people, and in some places we, as I told the president of the community college, that in one school in particular, they had a millwright teaching a machinist course, which I found out later, which is not acceptable. And that's why the students couldn't do anything when they come to my shop, and we just simply stopped taking applications. I think that's been since corrected. But during this whole debate about watering down the courses and getting them so watered down that basically when you get a student out of there, even though the student is very bright, very capable, just hasn't had enough time and enough experience to do anything. Well, I was at home and a friend of mine's a retired teacher from the community college who was previously worked at Mount St. Vincent in one of the departments, a very qualified lady. And I made the mistake of indicating to her that we had the president of the community college and here at Public Accounts. And I thought, well, I was going to get chastised. I told her what I said, and I thought I was going to get chastised. Well, it was just the opposite, absolutely opposite. I'd seen a side of this lady, I've known her for many, many years, that I didn't know existed. She wasn't frustrated. That's not a strong enough word. She wasn't aggravated. That wasn't a strong enough word. I can't use the proper adjective here to describe how upset this lady was with the system. Now, she retired a couple of years ago, and she went on for about 2 hours explaining to me some of the problems that she's seen in the system. Now, I can tell you, I've talked to students that over the years, that she trained with other teachers in the community college process. Very successful students. They've got very, very good jobs and are actually managing businesses now. So this lady's very capable. In her words, and I'll be very kind here, the system is so watered down that the students don't get a tenth of what they need. And that is a very strong statement. Now, that's coming from someone that was teaching in the system, and I, myself as an employer, and other employers I've talked to are saying the same thing. You can't take and compress a program that really takes years and years and years for someone to train and to learn how to do a particular trade, or it could be some type of accounting. You can't take that process and squeeze it down into 3 or 4 months. You can't do it. It just doesn't work. It's not fair to the students. It's not fair to the instructors, and it's not fair to the employers when the students come out. And the worst of it is, you've got extremely intelligent people taking these courses, and people that excel even though they have the restrictions to work with. And my business relied on machinists. Now, to train a machinist, and you probably don't know this because not many people do that aren't in manufacturing, to train a machinist from the day they walk in a school until they can produce anything you give them is 8 years. 8 years. Now, that sounds, well, it's a simple thing, you know, you just turn some dials and make some parts. But I'm telling you, it takes 8 years. And I've checked with manufacturing colleagues in the U.S. and manufacturing operations and asked them that same question, and the answer is always the same. It's 8 years. So you take a course that at one time in this province used to be 3 years with additional work at community college, with Nova Scotia Institute of Technology. After that, for anywhere from 2 to 3 years on top of that, 5-week course every year, and you shrunk it down to 1 year. And then you didn't even make the year longer. You didn't make the year 12 months. You left it at 8 months, basically 8 months. And I feel sorry for these young people who are coming to these courses that really need to get work. And it's really difficult on the employers because they're trying to get young people, because it's hard to get new people that are trained. And this is the reality of what's going on. And it's not that the school isn't good. It's not that the instructors aren't good. It's not that the programs aren't good. It's just they're compressed too much. And you've got to give people time to learn. You've got to give them hands-on experience to do these things. And until that changes, our economy is not going to improve in Nova Scotia. It's simply not going to improve. Because if you don't have people manufacturing things in this province, and we've seen the Trenton Car Works shut down now. And I would bet you, if they would have had better training and different management there, that place could have been as competitive as anywhere in the world. But if you don't give people the tools themselves to work with, and the hard tools, the equipment that they use, and the right combination of those things, you cannot be competitive in today's international market. You're either your product's being sold internationally or it's being manufactured internationally. So we really got to look at this whole process, and I think we've got to have a strong look at this community college process. There's a lot of programs that are good. I'm not saying everything is bad here. And I'm not saying that, again, that the instructors aren't good. The instructors are good. But if you don't give them the instructors the tools to work with and don't give them time enough to do their job, they can't do it. So I'd like to hear the minister's comments on that.
The Honourable Minister of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to the member opposite. The community college is an important part of that education system that we have in Nova Scotia, and I've spoken about it many times about how it's meeting the need of a population and how it's growing. They have an extensive growth plan, and we have 13 campuses around the province. We have about 10,000 students now, and that's a significant growth in the numbers of students who are taking advantage of the courses that are there. And we are introducing new courses all the time. As with any introduction of any program, it needs to be monitored very carefully to make sure that the outcomes that we expect students to have at the end of that training program have been achieved. And so standards are very important, whether it's in our schools, our universities, or our community colleges. I would agree with the member opposite in his initial comments. I believe we have a very strong administration there, and I think we have a very progressive and aggressive administration there. Someone who connects very closely with the workforce and who is constantly trying to make sure that the programs that are designed at the college are meeting the needs out in our communities. And so that link between employer, business, and industry and education is very strong, in particular with the community college and with our skills and training division. There are programs at the community college that are 1- and 2-year programs, but there are customized training programs there as well, where an employer has recognized a need with some of their employees, and together with the community college, they've designed what we call a customized program designed specifically to meet the needs of those employees. And you know, I think that's, again, an important step where we're trying to work in partnership. And some of those courses may be only 3 or 4 months, depending on the skills that the employee has when they come in and what the employee is expecting them to have when they leave. So that's, again, another opportunity where people can get that specific training. One of the programs that we have that's, again, I believe will help address your concern, or the concern out there of the length of time that people are in some kind of training program before they go on site as an employee, is obviously our apprenticeship program. And I think of one of my first visits when I came in as minister to Composites Atlantic down in Lunenburg, and had an opportunity to be there when 20 apprentices from our schools were partnering with the company, and the owner of the company was identifying this as a good investment of his time and his money, because these young people who may become his potential workforce were getting to know exactly what the expectations were, what the skills were that they needed, and so when they graduated and they wanted to come there to work, they were quite familiar with what that would entail. And he, as the employer, was very familiar with them, with their work ethic and with their skills, and so gave him a first-hand opportunity to determine whether this was an employee who could work within his environment. But that was just the beginning of a relationship and a partnership, and not all of those people who went through that apprenticeship program would be working at Composites Atlantic, but it was an opportunity for both partners, the students and the company, to work together and hopefully create a workforce that would be able to handle and he would be comfortable that they could handle the work that they were being asked to do. But to go back to the community college, you know, we have to make sure that we maintain high standards. And if input from the employer is such that, you know, as I'm hearing today, that perhaps not all of the graduates from all of the programs are as well prepared to take on the employment opportunities, then the community college will need to hear that. And when the community college hears that, responsibility then is to look at the program, look at the outcomes, and make modifications to ensure that we do graduate a student who is ready to hit the ground running when they're hired by the employer.
The honourable member for Preston with just less than a minute left.
I just want to wrap up by thanking the minister, and perhaps someday when she's got a couple of hours and she's not too stressed before she starts, she could talk to my friend and get information from the inside of the system that you would not hear anyplace. I think it would be quite informative and the lady I'm talking about is very well educated, very passionate about the students she was teaching, and turned out excellent students. So it might be interesting just to hear that side of the story, because the present teachers won't speak about it outside the school situation. And with the minister's past history, I think 5 or 10 minutes conversation you could learn a tremendous amount very, very quickly in this issue, and that's an important issue. Thank you.
Order, please. We'll now recognize the honourable member for Cape Breton Nova.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I thank the Minister today for being here with budget estimates for a department. So let's get started right away. Demand for teachers in the province of Nova Scotia has risen dramatically in the last couple of years with the retirement due to the indexing of pensions. So any new teacher now will not have indexing of their pension. So most of them had left, and there's quite a gap in there. I'm just wondering, is the department going to increase the number of spaces for teacher training in the province of Nova Scotia?
The Honourable the Minister of Education.
Mr. Chair, to the member opposite, I'm delighted to have the question because I have an answer. One of the things that you may have recognized that I try to do as minister is to look at things that we're doing within the Department of Education, and recognize that just because we decided 10 years ago that something was a good idea, that we continue to do it without going back to reevaluate or to reassess. And so there have been a number of areas where I've called for a review. We went through one with the school closure review, and that translated into an excellent opportunity for our public to let us know what they felt about the Education Act as it spoke to school closure. That translated, as we all know, into a report with 7 recommendations, and I was able to bring forward to the House 4 amendments to the Education Act, speaking to each one of those 7 recommendations. That model is something that I personally and professionally believe is a good one, and have identified other areas where we could apply that model. To get to your question, teacher training, teacher certification is one of those. We are putting together a 3-person committee with an advisory committee to work with them, and their mandate, the terms of reference and their mandate, will be to look at where and how and what the terms, duration of teacher training programs are in our province. We recognize that there is a gap there between supply and demand. We have a number of teachers who are retiring. We also recognize that as it now exists in our province, if you want to get a teacher's license, teacher certificate to teach, you have to do your 4-year undergrad and 2 years of education. That's 6 years. And personally and professionally, I don't think we can wait 6 years for these people to go through teacher training institutions and come out and help meet the demand that's out there now. I can't predict the outcome of the study, but I do recognize that we have to deal with that particular issue. Along with that, I talked about where teachers get their teacher training and the duration I've just addressed, but where I firmly believe that Nova Scotia students who wish to be teachers should be able to get their teacher training in Nova Scotia. And we know now that we have teachers who leave the province because they cannot get access to a teacher education training program at the universities that we currently have. Memorial, you know, is working to train some of our teachers in cooperation with Cape Breton. We know that St. Mary's is working in cooperation with universities in Maine. I would like to see those students be able to stay in Nova Scotia and get their training. So yes, the short answer is yes, we have called for a review. It will look at that, and I expect the report for me to be ready in October, November. Thank you.
The honourable member for Cape Breton Nova.
Thank you. I'm glad I got the short answer. I'm looking at, and you had mentioned Memorial and in conjunction with Cape Breton University, but I wonder if those teachers are allowed to teach in the province when they're finished that degree from Memorial and the one that they offer at Cape Breton University. So my next question will be, is the Department of Education going to give CBU a degree granting program for its teachers training, so like the minister said, we can keep our teachers here in the province?
The Honourable Minister of Education. A short answer.
Mr. Chair, to the member opposite, we've had some discussions about the future of teacher training in Cape Breton and in the province, and I anticipate that the review that we have underway will have something that speaks specifically to where in this province we deliver teacher training opportunities.
The honourable member for Cape Breton Nova.
Thank you. Thank the minister for that answer, and I'm hoping it will be Cape Breton University for we'll be able to do that, and I'm glad to see the other ministers advocating for that too. Now, I would like to talk about another issue about guidance counsellors in the province of Nova Scotia. Recently, the guidance counsellors in the Cape Breton Victoria Regional School Board were told that they'll need more education to be able to, it's not that they can stay on the job, but they'll need more credit courses offered at Acadia University. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just wondering if the minister knows that that these guidance counsellors that are in there now will not be able to transfer unless they have this extra, I forget if it's 30-something credits that they need to move around as guidance counsellors. So I'm wondering if the minister has any opportunity or thought about grandfathering these guidance counsellors into the position so that, you know, I've worked with many of these guidance counsellors in the past. They do a great job with our children in Cape Breton. You know, they've influenced a lot of Cape Breton children in the Cape Breton Victoria School Board, the guidance counsellors. So I'm just wondering if the Department of Education has any thought about grandfathering these guidance counsellors in the Cape Breton Victoria School Board. What they have right now is sufficient enough. And I'm wondering if they'll all have to go to Acadia. Thank you.
The Honourable Minister of Education.
Mr. Chair, to the member opposite, we have had discussions about the guidance program at Cape Breton University. And it's my understanding that when guidance diploma was first introduced in Cape Breton University, it was designed to provide teachers who were in the classroom with skills that would help them better deal with the guidance concerns that came up in the classroom. It was designed not to graduate guidance counselors, but it was designed to provide teachers with guidance counseling so that they could, as I say, better deal with issues in the classroom. And I believe it made stronger teachers because of that. It was a good program, and it did make the teachers stronger and give them more tools to deal with the issues that were facing them. What happened as a result of that is that some of those people were hired as guidance counselors. And we have been working with the Cape Breton Board to look at where we are with that. According to the expectations and the standards that we have for guidance counselors, those people who have gone through the guidance training program at CBU have not met those standards. Only one university in the province, is my understanding, Acadia University, gives a degree in guidance. So what we've said to the Cape Breton Board and to the teachers involved is that those teachers who are in a guidance position, having the guidance diploma, will be grandfathered into that position. They will be given until 2010 in order to take some additional courses offered by Acadia to give them a full qualification as a guidance counselor. And I know that Acadia, the school board, and the department are still working out the details of that.
The honourable member for Cape Breton Nova.
Well, I know about the valuable services at the guidance department in the Cape Breton Victoria School Board, and I think my colleague on the other side of the house there, who was a former school board member, would know the valuable resource they were to many children in that school board for many years, whether they got their diploma from CBU, whether they became teachers or whatever. But I mean, what I'm saying now is that you're saying that they'll be grandfathered in that position at 210, but the only place that they can go, and it would cost them thousands of dollars to go to Acadia University to upgrade their license so they can stay on the job and still stay there and be guidance counselors as long as they don't transfer, from what I'm hearing from the school board. But thousands of dollars in extra cost for these professional people, and they've influenced many a Cape Breton child, and I think it's very important that I don't understand maybe at this time why we couldn't grandfather them in. But I'll move on to my next questioning. My next questioning is the apprenticeship program, and it was just brought to my attention recently that the apprenticeship program was compromised. The test was compromised for the Level D apprenticeship class for the steam pipe fitters, and what has happened is that the test was given out and it was compromised. So from what I'm hearing at home in Cape Breton is that they'll have to wait until May to redo the test to get their red seal. You know, the Section 30 applicants under Level D application had nothing to do with an exam being compromised, but yet these people in Cape Breton, these tradesmen and the steam fitters and pipe fitters are compromised, and what has happened is that they've made flights to go to Alberta, and with the shutdown coming, they've made these flights, but now this apprenticeship test, because it was compromised, is not going to happen until May. So some of the unemployment programs that these guys were on and had made arrangements to have this test done, you know, I mean, they were scheduled to write it, I guess, who were scheduled to write it on April the 14th, and now we're going to have to wait another week. So at a cost of, I looked at, there's 40 people that were going to take this Red Seal program, an apprenticeship program, to go to Alberta. So the cost would be about $1 million, I guess, in lost wages to these people not being able to go to Alberta because of the compromise of this exam. So I'm just wondering if the department should maybe look at having a second exam in place in the future, so that if something happens, if it's compromised, and this has happened before in the past, that these apprenticeship program exams have been compromised. So I'm just wondering if the department, is there any way of speeding this up, or they have to wait 6 weeks to get a new exam? You know, and I'm wondering because, you know, those that were scheduled to write also on March the 31st and then again April the 14th, so now having to wait an extra month. It's going to cost them, I think the union had told me, about anywhere from $750,000 to $1.2 million in wages, lost wages, because they can't go to Alberta without the Red Seal. So I'm wondering if the minister and the department is going to have a look at maybe getting a second exam in place for when this happens and these tests are compromised in the future. I think it would be a good policy on behalf of the department to have a second exam ready in conjunction with the industry, so this won't happen again. So I'm wondering if the department has had an idea of looking at doing that in the future, and also what can be done to help these steam fitters and pipe fitters recently now, so they can get to Alberta with their Red Seal to make money and bring that money back to Nova Scotia. Thank you very much.
The Honourable the Minister of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to the member opposite. I'll certainly look into that. I recognize the importance of people, if they have a date set for their test, and they're planning their future, and they're going to do the test on a certain day and then move on. So I will certainly look at that and take under advisement the recommendation that we try to retest or set another test date or have an alternate.
Well, I'd like to thank the
The Honourable.
but I think by having a second test put aside somewhere so it can't be compromised would be a great thing in the future, so these guys can get out to work and get their Red Seal. Now I'd like to pass my remainder of time left to my colleague from Halifax Atlantic, please.
I recognize the Honourable Member for Halifax Atlantic.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and thanks to the Minister as well for entertaining a few questions. I think you will have heard me speaking in the House previously, and that I think I have a very interesting family of schools in my area, and I'm wondering if actually you can tell me a little bit more about them, in the sense that the International Baccalaureate program, I know, which has been introduced, the intention is to introduce it around the province, I know, and I think it was going to be one per school board. But in the case of JL Ilsley, which was not selected as one of the IB schools, it has chosen to pursue advanced placement courses and designation as an AP school. Can you tell me the status of that and whether JL Ilsley is expected to be joined by other schools around the province?
The Honourable, the Minister of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And, you know, we certainly are anxious to provide enrichment opportunities for those students who do need and want and are ready for a challenge. And we do that in a couple of ways. We do that through the IB, and we also do that through advanced placement. We did make a commitment in this budget to increase the number of schools for IB, and we also have put dollars in our budget to help those schools that had AP designation to continue, in fact, put the dollars there so students would not even have to pay the fee to write for the AP. Your question is specific to a school. I'll have to get back to you on that one, if you don't mind. But both of those are important programs, and we are trying to make sure that we have a geographic representation for where they are offered, so students who are able to and want the challenge have that opportunity. But I'll get back to you with the specifics on that school, if you don't mind.
The Honourable Member for Halifax Atlantic.
No, that's fine, and thank you very much. And I'd certainly encourage you to look further at that and perhaps at a similar geographic distribution for the AP courses, simply because that opens a lot of advanced education to students who may not subscribe to the entire IB program, which is a very demanding program and requires a full investment on the part of a very few students, whereas AP is perhaps a more flexible program, and I hope it will have the chance to achieve equal representation around the province. One of the things that I was wondering about as well, and maybe you can tell me something about the progress here. For a long time, I've noted as my own children go through school and so on that there's not always library staffing anymore, and to the degree that libraries have long been regarded as sort of the silent working place, if staffed, and a place for children to go outside of the classroom in order to get work done if the hurly-burly of the classroom proves to be a bit much for quiet work. Are there any plans in place to ensure that libraries are fully staffed during school hours so that children can go there to do independent work?
The Honourable, the Minister of Education.
Mr. Chairman, to the member opposite, we do provide funding to our school boards. Some of that funding is targeted and some is not, but we do target money which we expect school boards to use for library services in their school. What some boards have opted to do is to hire library assistants so that there is somebody in the library who can meet the students who are there and provide the library services and supports there. Other boards choose to use some of that money for resources for the library, but that does go to the boards, and boards do make those decisions. One of the reasons boards have gone with library assistants as opposed to librarians, of course, is the availability and also the salaries that go along with that. So there's every effort to make sure that there's some supports in the library. It's interesting when we're building our new schools that the library often becomes the focal point in the new school. The design is such that it is there as the main part of the building when you first enter, because it is an important part of the building. But the resources that we give go directly to the boards, but targeted for libraries.
The Honourable Member for Halifax Atlantic.
Well, that's interesting, because I certainly would feel that the provision of library time is different from the provision of library resources, and it might be something that, in fact, the department wants to look at, because I would say that it's perhaps you know, a part of basic learning time, and as we say that a certain amount of physical education time should be provided in the course of any day, then a certain amount of study hall time, independent study, quiet time, whatever you want to call it, which is usually takes place in a library, but if the school has a study hall, will take place there. I would argue that that's something that should be basically provided in every school. And however that's staffed. There's nothing more dispiriting than to walk down a corridor filled with children sprawled on the floor trying to do their work outside the classroom because the library is closed. There's nobody in it. There may be books in it, but there is no person to supervise. And you see that in a great many classrooms, so in a great many school corridors. So I would hope that library time will be looked at as an essential to be made available to students at all times. In a little bit the same vein, one of the things I was wondering about, and I think I asked briefly about this last year, but wondering what the status is today, tech ed in the high schools. I know that the area that I come from, that I represent, the J.L. Illsley family of schools, at least in popular lore amongst the students graduating, has the reputation of sending a good number of children to community college. A significant number to community college. And I'm curious as to whether that relates to the availability of technical education, whether you have done any sort of studies. I know we talk a great deal about labor shortages and do a great deal to encourage attendance at Nova Scotia Community College and in the trades and so on. But how many high schools in the province at this moment, and I mean high schools, offer shop class, tech ed, whatever you may call it, and is there any correlation between the availability of that in high school and attendance at community college?
The Honourable the Minister of Education.
Mr. Chair, to the member opposite, high schools are certainly a place where students should have the opportunity to have either electives or mandatory courses in technology. And the department has certainly taken on an initiative to make sure that the resources are there in professional development, hardware, software, and technical staff. And we have over the last 7 years, put about $30 million into our schools in the form of the IEI initiative, Information Economy Initiative, and that was to make sure that our high schools had computers in every classroom, and the teachers had the professional development that they needed so they knew how to use those, so you could do the curriculum integration and technology could be integrated into curriculum delivery. And we also provide technical support because a computer that doesn't work is not of use to anyone. So we looked at all of those components and funded that to about $30 million over the last 7 years. We also have course selection at the high schools for call it tech ed, but technology. Sometimes it's computer skills and sometimes it's keyboarding, sometimes it's programming, and so those courses are available as options. I cannot give you the exact number, but I would believe that every high school should be offering those courses as an elective.
The Honourable Member for Halifax Atlantic.
Sorry. Thank you, and perhaps I'm not using quite the right language. I think it's what used to be called shop class that I was wondering about. Saws, hammers, nails, all those sorts of things that... That's history. But it's not in all schools. Yeah. And I'd like to, at the moment, pause, if I could, to welcome some students, young people, who probably know at least as much about the subject at hand as any of us do down here in the gallery. Welcome, and I hope you'll enjoy this, because this is really a learning process for us, for the members of the opposition party to question and learn, and it's one of the more open times of debate, and actually, it's a time that we all really quite look forward to, because it's one of the informal times for learning or least formal times of learning for us. So welcome, and I hope you end up learning something or being able outside the chamber to tell us something. So as I say, it was shop classes that I was wondering about, really. I know there's at least one high school still offering it.
Honourable the Minister of Education.
Thank you, and we now understand each other. I mentioned earlier about the options and opportunities, the O2, and that is an opportunity to have students choose that as one of their courses through grade 10, 11, and before they graduate in grade 12. We have 27 schools currently this year, and we are adding 5 to that, so there will be 32 sites, 32 high schools where that O2 option is available. And we also have taken $1.3 million towards composite vocational kinds of training, and there was a time in this province when we had a number of vocational schools around the province, and a decision was made that they would no longer continue. One of those schools did survive, and that is Memorial in Cape Breton at a composite high school there. And that's a model that we have looked at, and with the 1.3 that we're putting into composite vocational training this year, we certainly want to make sure that we can extend that kind of an opportunity to more students around the province. I've been to Memorial, and the students were building a house inside the building, and they were doing the plumbing and they were doing the electrical, and it was a wonderful learning environment for them. One of the things that we have looked at is the facilities that we have in our schools and facilities that we have in our communities, because of course it's costly to set up a shop. However, we do have community colleges, 13 campuses, and if they have facilities that we might be able to use, that's an option. We're also looking at the the mobile unit approach. That's something that they use in Alberta, and I think they used it in Nova Scotia a number of years ago. And the old shopmobile would drive up, and the students would take their woodworking kind of classes in that. My mother told me about that. Anyway, that whole approach, though, I think is something, because we want to be able to take, we'd like to be able to take a fully equipped lab right to the site, so students can come out into a modern new lab and to do their woodworking, or their, if that happens to be the lab, or their electrical or whatever, for one semester, and then move it on. So we don't have to refurbish and outfit every high school with an expensive lab, but we do want to give the students an opportunity to be in a high-class lab environment when they do take that training. So we have dollars in this budget. It is a commitment, and it's a population that we want to serve.
The honourable member for Halifax Atlantic.
Well, thank you very much, and I commend you on that initiative, because it certainly led me, or I was afraid it was leading me into one of my other questions, which is about that of insurance, because it is, of course, appears to be one of the limiting factors that keeps a number of students actually in the school and on the school property, as opposed to being able to depart and do learning either on vocational sites or, any number of other sites. And I'm not talking just about tech ed or shop at this point. Does the department do anything in terms of providing group pools of insurance for the school boards to work with, or do the school boards insure themselves individually?
The Honourable, the Minister of Education.
Mr. Chair, to member opposite, school boards are self-insured, so students who are involved in activities related to their school would be covered by that.
The honourable member for Halifax Atlantic.
Yes, no, I didn't. No, that's okay. So they're fully self-insured, so the department has no role in even negotiating group insurance there. Okay. I have only one more question, and then I'm going to pass my time to my colleague from Pictou West. It's also, it has its origins in school in my area, J.L. Ilsley, the teen health centers. I understand that model, and that these are health department funded initiatives that by the district health boards. Do they in fact exist, and is it contemplated that they will exist in high schools throughout the province through DHA funding?
The Honourable, the Minister of Education.
Mr. Chair, to the member opposite, it certainly is our goal to have a teen health centre in every high school. And again, going back to new school construction, when high schools are built now, that's one of the rooms, one of the spaces, not just one room, but one of the spaces that's designed. It's very much a part of the design, and that's an indication of where we want to go. So there certainly is, there are a number of them around the province, and they have proven to be very valuable. And so It is our goal to have one accessible in every school for all of our high school students. And, you know, if you have a junior high population, they can well benefit from that as well.
The honourable member for Halifax Atlantic.
Thank you, and I'm going to share the rest of my time with my colleague from Pictou West.
The honourable member for Pictou West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I too want to welcome the Minister and her staff here, and hope you're holding up okay. And it's a long process, I know that, of many hours in estimates. So, but no problem. I'm sure you can handle it. Anyway, I have a couple points I want to raise with you. As you may recall, in question period yesterday, we talked about libraries and library funding and the importance of libraries, public libraries, in as a lifelong learning measure, and certainly I can talk about the Pictou-Antigonish Regional Library as being well used. There's an uptake in service there. We have increases in program use and in online internet borrowing and so on. So more and more people are finding our libraries a wonderful place to visit and get materials that they require. However, as you can recall from our question exchange yesterday, there's a question over the amount of funding that's been allocated to our public libraries, and it's been brought to my attention by our local library board in Pictou-Antigonish region that there's not enough there to make ends meet. And in fact, over the last 6 years, the funding increase for libraries in this province has only been 9%. And of course, the cost of living during that period of time has been 21%. So there's a shortfall even keeping up with the cost of living. And as a result, the municipalities have had to pay more. They paid 35% during that period of time. And the library, through their own fundraising, has actually had to increase by 313%. You know, it's an extra burden on both the municipalities and the fundraising that they do themselves. So, I guess my first question, Madam Minister, is what can you tell us about the funding for libraries for this year? And I'll have some follow-up questions on that after your comments.
The Honourable Minister of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to the member opposite. I do recall our conversation from yesterday in question period, and my response to that. We recognize the importance of libraries across the province. We have 9 library boards, well-operated boards, people who are committed to library services across the province. And out of those 9 library boards, there are 77 different sites around the province. And I would acknowledge that as more and more people are using the internet for accessing information and for doing business, that if they do not have computers in their own home, they may certainly be taking advantage of what's available in the libraries, at the local library site, and that's encouraging. We also recognize that with respect to that, the province does assume all costs for EdNet for those sites, and that's a way that we have of providing support so that that service to those people who use the internet and use the computers in their libraries have access to that. And so that's a cost that we bear rather than the library itself. The funding for libraries has not changed a lot over the last number of years. In fact, last year the base was $10.7 million, and at the end of the year they were given an additional $1 million. This year we took that additional $1 million and put it into the base, so the base now became $11.7 in this budget that we currently have. That's not what the libraries had hoped for, that's not what they had asked for, but it is an attempt for us to let them know that that funding is stable and an increase of $1 million that they can be sure of as they make their plans for the upcoming expenses.
The Honourable Member for Pictou West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And then I want to talk about that $1 million, and as the Minister indicated, it was given to the board last year in the fiscal year 06-07, I guess it is. And that was an announcement a month ago, I believe, that the Premier made that additional money would be going to library boards. But in actual fact, that that money I do believe was held and is actually in this year's budget. Is that factual, that the $1 million that was allocated a month ago is actually a 0% increase? There's no actual increase in the dollars that was allocated to our library boards?
The Honourable the Minister of Education.
Mr. Chair, to the member opposite, the base for last year for libraries was 10.7. We did give them the additional million in the budget year last year. This year, we added that million to the base to make the base 11.7.
The Honourable Member for Pictou West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the amount of money the library board received last year was $11.7 million, counting that $1 million that was allocated. This year, the amount of money they're going to receive is $11.7 million. And also in 2005 and 2006, the amount was $11.7 million. So in actual fact, 3 years in a row now, the amount has been exactly the same amount of $11.7 million. So that's 0% increase over those 3 fiscal years. So that is making it very tough for libraries to keep up with the cost of living, with increasing salaries, increasing cost of books, other costs that they have. You know, I've heard from our chief librarian at the Pictou-Antigonish Regional Board, Eric Stackhouse, and he's saying that it's going to make it very difficult for his board with the staff and the salary expectations and book costs and so on. It may mean a decrease in services. It may mean some cutback in the amount of books they can buy and so on. But 3 years running with a 0% increase is making it very tough. I just would like to get the minister's opinion on that.
The Honourable the Minister of Education.
Mr. Chairman, to the member opposite, his numbers are correct. I think we're both saying the same thing. What we're saying to the libraries is no, there has been no significant increase. All that has happened is that you're guaranteed that your base is now an additional $1 million. We believe that will help them with their planning. We recognize that they have challenges. We meet with the members of the library boards regularly, and we will continue to work with them. We know that there's a new strategy developed for libraries across the province, and we will continue to work with them and to monitor the situation. But in fact, the numbers are as we've discussed.
The Honourable the Member for Pictou West.
Well, just one final question in that regard, Minister. I guess in light of the fact that additional monies was found last year, $1 million to help the board at that period in time, is it possible or is it likely that perhaps additional money can be found in this fiscal year also to help the board? Because they're hurting. They really need additional dollars. 0% increase is really, really hard on the board year after year.
The Honourable the Minister of Education.
Mr. Chair, to the member opposite, I would hope that my comments in that we would continue to work with the boards to monitor how they're able to operate would suggest that should additional monies become available, we would recognize that there had been no increase and would give that serious consideration.
The Honourable Member for Pictou West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I appreciate the minister's commitment to that, and hopefully the board, or the department, I should say, will be able to find additional dollars to help out a very serious situation. I want to switch focus here now to another aspect of the minister's department, and that's around school review process and school closures, as I guess it used to be known, and there's certainly nothing that puts fear into a community more than the threat of their local community school being shut down or phased out. And I guess my experience with this has been certainly with the River John Consolidated School that I'm sure the minister is familiar with, grades primary to grade 8 and or perhaps grade 9, and it's been a struggle there to keep the numbers up in that community. There was a consolidation study done last year, which meant that grades 7, 8, and 9 would possibly be going to another location, either the Academy in Pictou or Northumberland Regional High School or North Colchester Regional High in Tatamagouche. But there were some options being considered, as well as the status quo. But like I said, the community rallies anytime there's a threat to their community school, and we all know that community schools are, they're really the heart and soul of a community. The parents, grandparents, children, people of all ages sort of come to the school as a center of the community where, and if that's gone, it really hurts economic activity in the area. It hurts community spirit, and it probably prevents new businesses and young families or anybody from moving into the area. So I guess one suggestion that's been countered or suggested to counter that problem is, could our schools be used for more than just a school? Is there other economic activity that could be used in those empty classrooms to help keep the costs down? And there's been suggestions around a daycare, around government offices, some type of compatible type of business. So I guess I'm asking the minister, has the department looked seriously at enhancement of schools rather than looking at closing them out? But is there additional things that could be added to the school to make it viable, to keep it there? And who knows, down the road a few years, there may be additional children, and the school population would build back up again. But in those empty classrooms that are costing money for heating and maintenance and so on, are there some additional uses that could be employed?
The Honourable, the Minister of Education.
Mr. Speaker, to the member opposite, I couldn't agree more that community schools are important. They are the lifeblood of the community.